in. Obviously, they need to do more work on that car. On board with one of the factory BMW Motorsport M3 GTRs. They're on board, the number 42 in the hands of former Formula One driver J.J. Lehto, chasing Dirk Müller in the sister car from BMW Motorsport.
And this is the battle for the class lead. The two PTG cars sit in 3rd and 4th in class, 10th and 11th overall. They're about 8 seconds behind this battle, and they two are within a second on the racetrack.
Listen how noisy it is inside those cars.
Yeah, whining transmission. It's echoing inside that metal.
Tremendous development on these GT cars this year. Not only the V8 power, and by the way, BMW has a V8 powered M3 road car here this weekend. They've been showing off down in the paddock. They are going to build a few of those, not many, and certainly not available, as I understand it, in North America, but there is one here. But so much development for these race cars this year. They're going so quick on the racetrack.
Of course, it was the building of the street version of this car that caused such an issue when it was brought out at the 12 Hours of Sebring earlier this year. The idea behind the GT category is that it is a mass, or at least commercially available street car in a racing iteration. The case with this car is the race car came out before the street car.
And the reality of that, Bob, is if you read the ACO rules, they're actually wide open in terms of what you can build. It's not as restrictive as most people think in terms of these GT cars, which are, as you say, supposed to be production-based. You can really get pretty free with what you want to build. It's just a question, do you want to spend the money and take the time to build it?
Ooh, close moment there with one of the GT Porsches.
Poor guy was so offline trying to let the two faster cars by. Had to come back somewhere.
That's Christophe Tinso, I believe, in the Cadillac. Well, credit these drivers who are being overtaken. That has to be incredibly difficult. Trying to judge that speed differential. You may be in a race of your own. You're certainly allowed to hold your own line, but you cannot simply evaporate so that a faster car can come through.
The most important thing is that you really should keep to your line. Having made your decision to take a line, you hold to it, because you don't want to veer from it. It really upsets the car behind, but it's a much faster car coming up.
And there is the pass. Lehto gets by his teammate in the braking zone for the chicane. So Lehto takes over the class lead in GT.
Now, Lehto comes into this race 1 point behind his longtime driving teammate, Jörg Müller. As we mentioned at the top of the show, those two drivers have been separated for this race so that one of them will be able to win the championship. They didn't want to have both of their title contenders knocked out should the car let them down for some reason. And based on what we've seen thus far in the Petit Le Mans, you can see why that was a very, very smart thing to do.
The all-Müller car.
Now, Müller's advantage of 1 point over Lehto comes from the fact that he picked up a bonus point for setting the fastest race lap at Sebring. There are bonus points for fastest lap for the driver who does it, and in the overall for fast lap, leading a lap, and leading the most laps. Welcome back to the final round of the American Le Mans Series for 2001. The Petit Le Mans from Road Atlanta. You are on board with J.J. Lehto, who did have the race lead in the GT category in his BMW, but moments ago he went off track. There you see the flying fin at work. Let's take another look at what happened to him. Down into turn 1. Oh, James Weaver in the LMP 900 car.
JJ will be absolutely livid, because he was up in arms so much over the last couple of years about this sort of driving. I mean, it wasn't James's fault, but he did pinch on James. But then, you know, the point is that you have to give the guy in front the line through the corner. Why should he pull off line and put himself in a jeopardizing position? And everybody assumes, because they're in a 900 LMP, that they can go where they want to, and everybody else has to move out of the way. Everybody's out there trying to win the race. That's the point. Now, their class.
New challenge for Lehto. The right rear is delaminated, as they like to say.
So
load up.
So there must have been contact on that right rear. And there,
That's Weaver. No, that's James Weaver
right.
in the Dyson, Riley and Scott, the car that made contact with Lehto.
He'll be livid.
Let's take another look from on board Lehto's car now. Watch the right side of your screen. See if you can see. There goes Wallace.
Yeah, I mean,
no missing that.
And the point is, James Weaver is a few laps behind. He's not exactly contesting the lead, and I think it was, again, one of those unnecessary things.
Weaver's shown 13th, 9 laps behind. Let's go to Calvin in the pits.
You can see the damage there, Bob, on the right rear fender. It doesn't look too bad other than the fact that it did get into the tire and cut it down. But as Derek Bell said, JJ will be absolutely livid here. We'll try and catch a quick word with him. JJ, what happened? He doesn't even want to talk. He wants to look at that and see if we can get a word with him.
It's this asshole Weaver, you know. He doesn't know that we are fighting for the championship, you know. He's not fighting for anything, and, you know, he has to hit us, you know.
You can hear he's pretty frustrated. His own language. He comes through in pretty good American, Bob, when he's mad.
Yes, I think we understood very clearly what JJ was talking about there. Fredrik Ekblom takes over the car.
It's interesting, you know, because when we looked at that, he absolutely left Weaver room. There was no question about it.
Now you see the BMW way offline there, but
Yeah, but there was plenty of room. It's just so unnecessary when you're in 17th place and the other guy you know is contesting a good position.
well, fighting for a championship. Listen up. Well, you heard the beach lapping up against the car, but you didn't hear the contact that time.
It's just as well you couldn't hear the in-car voice from him talking to his pit crew, boy, I tell you.
Yeah,
Would have been a few finished words thrown in there.
But you could see he was way offline, nowhere near turning in for the corner.
You know, the ironic part of all that is that the last couple of years, Lehto was driving the LMP BMWs and was totally on the other end of that. And, you know, and it's tough for both groups of drivers. There's no question about it. But I agree with you. The Weaver is not in a position where he's fighting for a top 3 position or a championship or anything like that.
Into 5th. And then turned into the... That's amazing speed.
They do motor through there, I have to say. But, you know, that Paynos team is really having a nice big up at the moment. You know, they've won a couple of races, and it's such a difference from when they were at Sebring. They were so down. So they are determined to finish this race.
On board here with Boris said, this is the PTG car. These boys here, the American branch of BMW, are very much in a support mode to the motorsports effort. They really want BMW and the motorsports drivers to have a realistic chance of winning the championship. And Tom Milner is quite happy to have his boys be part of the team.
Contact early on in the long race.
I know. At the beginning, when I was out there for the first couple of hours, I was surprised, and obviously it's still going on, and there's way less cars. People just aren't thinking.
Thanks very much, Darcy. And yeah, I mean, that's part of it. That's one of the issues here. I mean, you can throw a lot of things at this track. A lot of people say if you're going to have the twist and turn like that, wider wouldn't hurt either.
Well, don't forget, there's 2 ways of looking at these races. You can try to sprint the whole thing, keep your fingers crossed to get away with it, win that way, or you can take a deep breath and go endurance racing where you pace yourself more. The Cadillacs were out to pace themselves and get a result. They will get a result here, there's no doubt about that. But the Audis, on the other hand, the favourites, they're obliged to try and sprint it amongst each other and make a race of it. So really, you pays your money and takes your choice. If you can afford to, you sprint it, and if you can't afford to, then you have to play the waiting game and make it into a race of attrition.
Well, the caddies, I mean, by their own admission, are not yet on sprint pace. I mean, they're not going to go head-to-head against an Audi and be there. So that's a smart move on their part to just let the race sort out, be very consistent, be as quick as you can be without taking risks, and hope something settles at the end. Now look at the pack of traffic right now that the champion machine starting to work through Andy Wallace. It's exactly what we're talking about. On board with one of the BMW Motorsport machines, and you can see Andy disappear in the distance. There's one of the American Viper Racing entry cars, the number 45 of Hesmans and Company.
And that was a GTS showing the speed advantage it has over a GT car. Back at the pack also, we saw the Pill Beam. We've watched that go around for most of the afternoon. A new 675 sports car being developed for the American market. Back on board again. with the BMW GTS car. Boy, these things move around in these corners.
You know something, there's another way to do this race, which is to have a different setup. I am quite convinced that the Wallace-Herbert Audi has not got the same setup that the other Audi R8s have. I think they tuned their car differently. I don't think they're going for great download in the corners. I think they've got that car sorted out so it's super quick on the straight, not perhaps so quick round the corners, because most of the turns you're going to get balked or have to back off anyway, so why not make up your time by being super quick on the straight? I was out there earlier looking, and it was visibly quicker on the straight than anything else. I haven't seen the actual gun times.
Trying to get all those small advantages, because remember that factory car, and we did mention it earlier on, does have the direct injection, and the big advantage is not necessarily more horsepower, but way better fuel consumption. And when you go into 10 hours of racing, better fuel consumption is an enormous advantage.
We're on board, of course, with the number 42 BMW Motorsport entry, but driver one of the PTG machines, Boris said.
Yeah, down here with Boris, who's just stepped out of the car, handed over to Bill Auberlen. Boris, the traffic out there, although we've lost quite a few cars, just must be unbelievable. You must be incredibly busy in the car.
Yeah, I mean, traffic's tough to contend with. Sometimes you gain and sometimes you lose. You just got to be patient. It's a long race. And these BMW M3s are awesome cars. We're running first, second, third, and fourth, and hopefully we'll be there at the end. But this is a great track. It's a great event.
As busy as you are out there and as much concentration it takes, you're having a lot of fun, though?
It's a lot of fun. I mean, these cars are a ride to drive. They don't call it the ultimate driving machine for nothing, and our Yokohama tires are working great.
All right, Boris, we'll keep an eye on you. Suki gave him the thumbs up. He gave it back. Back up to you in the booth.
This guy wasn't. He was locked up on the brakes. There's the difference between a man like Frank Bieler and this guy.
That's why Bieler's driving at the absolute peak of the sport, and obviously with good reason. Good look at some of the drivers and the look from their office. We'll be right back to ours in just a second. There is a look, certainly, at the number 31 Pilbeam. They finally got it up on the flatbed and are getting it out of there. Going to take a look at replay those pit stops that Dorsey was talking about. Both of the BMW Motorsport cars in, and it's down literally to a race in the pits here.
Karl Wendlinger now, of course, in the BMW. We saw him win the FIA Championship in the Viper, which, of course, he moved to just a couple of years after his Formula One career ended against the barriers in Monaco in the Sauber during that terrible year.
Now, this is the 43 car. It's very interesting. After a full season of Jörg Müller and J.J. Lehto sharing the same car, they're now in separate cars to ensure that one of them will get the championship. Gotcha. They want to make sure on that, but it's fascinating. We're watching.
Wow, 42 job does a better job than the 43.
Müller, of course, who got in with the number 43. And J.J. and Dirk doing the exchange in the 42.
Yep.
And look at
they're
hustling on it, but a little bit of a problem there. There's the issue. That's what held them up. Now they're able to get out and get underway, but that was just enough. The other car gone already. Taking a look here now as the full course caution continues. One of the issues that we've been following is a fairly involved, if you will, situation in terms of the points in the GT division. There's lots of different strategies that can unfold. Here is how they stood coming into the race. You can see Jörg Müller 1 point lead over J.J. Lehto. They've been sharing the same car all year long. They split them because Sasha Maassen and Lucas Luhr have a shot at it. They wanted to make sure that one of their guys is going to get this championship for BMW Motorsports, and there's been lots of support roles, you mentioned, Dirk, by PTG, but the point scenarios are fascinating.
Absolutely, and Greg, you mentioned this championship. It is so vital.
Welcome back to the Audi Petit Le Mans here at Road Atlanta. The full course caution continues, although we suspect that that's going to be resolved fairly quickly. They've got the car loaded up and out of the area, just some minor cleanup remaining, and we hope to be getting back to green in fairly short order. You know, one of the things that is such a key during any race, of course, is those 4 black ovals, and every bit of input from a driver, the engine, aerodynamics goes to the tires. And earlier, Dorsey Schrader filed the Michelin tires tech tip on the tires.
Took on a brand new set of Goodyears, refueled, and put out some pre-made bandages on the back. That car is back underway.
And we are green. We are green. And there's the traffic. traffic jam. Great move by the caddy, snuck around Murey, and right there, the number 2 Audi of Pirro absolutely swallowed up in that traffic jam. Watch for him coming up over the rise. This is into turn 3. Pirro got through a couple of those cars. There's Andy Wallace, the champion car, right behind one of the prototype technology machines.
A race car under control on the track is enough for most mortals. This guy is a bit like old Professor Prost. He's actually thinking about the race at the same time.
Have a look at Professor Magnussen here. He is beginning to dare.
Caddy just almost got swallowed up by one of the BMW Motorsports cars. Sorry, Dirk.
Yeah, but Magnussen is beginning to dare whether he will stick his nose under Andy Wallace or not. I think he appears to be maybe a tiny bit faster in some places on the track.
Andy Wallace, in fact, having a bit of a run at... Welcome back to the Petit Le Mans, everybody, and that's Bill Auberlen, who the number 10. We think actually it's Brian Cunningham. It's on fire. He went over to the corner station and grabbed a fire bottle. That's up at the exit of turn 3 on the inside of 4, where it plummets down to the S's. Now with his gloves on, he can't get the pin out. There, he's got the pin out. Now he's really struggling. I don't think he's got the pin all the way out, but he just pulled off. There's a big plume of smoke, and obviously he's got a fire on board. But boy, they're struggling here. There it goes.
And there was so much smoke inside the car, he could not drive the car to a flag marshal that had an extinguisher. He had to bail out immediately.
Yeah, that isn't steam, that is actually smoke. See, if he lifted the hood up on that car,
you know what, that car is still on fire.
It's too late. Did you see him? He backed away. He couldn't get in there because
they're going to lose that car if they're not
the heat
careful.
was too much, yeah.
Where are the fire marshals?
Well, where are the fire marshals? See, once he opens the hood and lets the air in, the flames will come licking out if he's not careful.
He's trying to spot where it's starting, and I'm not even sure he could do that. There it goes.
That's oil smoke, I would suggest. The black stuff is usually gasoline, and the white stuff is oil.
You know, it's inside the car, too.
This is the best look that we have at it. There he is. He's already pulled off, and he's trailing something underneath, and so it looks like it might just be a comprehensive blow-up. But boy, did it get onto exhaust manifolds or something and ignited in a hurry.
That's what it is. He's had a catastrophic explosion of the engine. It's grenaded itself, I would think, probably, and then put all the oil everywhere, all over the exhausts, the lot.
Let me tell you, that is a panic situation for Brian Cunningham. Look at this. He runs. He knows exactly what's wrong. Look at the desperation here as he tries to get this fire extinguisher to work.
I wonder, I mean, if he hit the onboard fire system and he realized that wasn't going to be enough. So here's the struggle, and of course with those gloves on, it's tough to get the pins pulled on that. So we are full course yellow. We've got now the full fire unit out there. But, I mean, you can't have a fire truck at every spot around the track, and he just, unfortunately, where it happened was in one where there wasn't one that close. Now they're addressing the situation, but, of course, with all those people in the vehicles there, we're yellow. We'll be back.
All ideas and inventions come from people in...
Welcome back to Road Atlanta, everybody. There's a look at an okay, but obviously still quite concerned Brian Cunningham, and he is trying to make sure that that car is in good shape. Of course, Dorsey down in pit lane, his team owner's got to be a little concerned as well.
Well, Tom Milner, I see you watching the telecast. You saw the blow-up. I guess it's a blow-up. You're talking to him on the radio?
Well, it doesn't look good on TV, obviously. We're not quite sure. The lap before, when this happened, Brian reported some smoke coming out of the gear shift. We're not quite sure what it is. It seems maybe it's an oil leak or an electrical problem. So I'm not quite sure, Dorsey, what it is, but I hope it's not too serious. It looks bad.
So he's going to try to fix it if he can, though.
I doubt it. I mean, we have to look at it. I think there was enough fire there that it'd be hard. If it's an electrical fire, that means the wiring harness, and I think that would be difficult. So we'll assess it once we get it here.
Okay, tough break from here, guys.
Dorsey, that is indeed, the car was running quite well, but obviously out right now. We're going to take a look and show you the top 10 at this stage, and you can see that there's been a little change in sanctioning body here for next year. We'll talk about that. This is the 7th full course yellow in just the first 3 hours and 45 minutes.
Audi tells them what they can and can't do, and it's a frustration, I know, to Johnny Herbert. He says they say no.
Audi definitely reigns in rules over those privateer cars, no question. We're going to take a quick break here while we're still under the yellow at this stage. Here's your class leaders. A great drive by Scott Maxwell.
Could be, or just getting some fresh air in there to get rid of the steam. Just talking about that Cadillac team, you guys are absolutely 101% right. They're a very efficient team. They redesigned the whole of the back end of that car, that whole new gearbox transaxle unit in there with the whole new rear suspension. Nigel Stroud and his mate Jeff Hazel are working wonders there. And I said it once, I say it again, as Murray Walker would say, watch out for that new Cadillac when it hits the road. It's going to be fantastic.
Nigel Stroud, of course, being the designer, Jeff Hazel being the management brain for that new Cadillac program.
Interesting little battle we're watching here. The car in the front of your screen right now is the number 6 prototype technology group, BMW. Bill Auberlen behind the wheel. He is doing everything he can to keep that number 43 behind him, because if Jörg Müller gets by, he puts him down a lap. He now wants the yellow to get back in the hunt. Prototype technology machines, he's not down in the pit lane, and obviously he's got to be very frustrated. Dorsey?
Well, Brian, a frustrating deal. Got a little warm today.
Yeah, it's a little hotter than I wanted, and I'm not sure. BMW Yokohama gave us a great car today. We're really pleased with it. We're, you know, in front. Very happy, setting a nice clean pace. Got a little hot gear temp, and all of a sudden let go in turn 2. I pulled it over and it erupted into flames. I'm not really sure what happened.
It didn't look like you were getting a lot of help on the fire situation. It looked like you were man.
I mean, the cabin filled up so much with smoke, I couldn't find the fire button, and I just went for the first thing I could find, and I couldn't shop around for the nearest fire station. I didn't have the time.
Well, good news for you. You're okay, and tough break on the car.
Yeah, it's a shame. BMW had a great car here. We're looking for a win. It would have been great for my first race back.
Back to you guys.
Thanks, Dorsey. And I wanted to mention, obviously, Brian, a very, very capable driver. He was also paired with one of the regular drivers on that team, Niclas Johnson, but they brought in a driver for this weekend who comes from Atlanta itself, David Murey. And, of course, David, we've seen race a lot in ALMS action. He knows this track. They brought him in. They actually were so impressed they had him qualify the car. He was the starting driver in the machine, doing a nice job. So, tough day for those guys.
But that just shows you what motor racing can be all about. I mean, everything's going really smoothly, and then there's an thought of break. Something went wrong there, whether the engine blew or the oil pipe broke. David Brabham came into the pits in his Panos. They put the pneumatic wheel gun onto his wheel nut, and the casing of the wheel hammer grenaded, and all these bits of metal went flying. Well, I mean, that's a nasty thing to happen. You wouldn't expect that. Holds you up, though. It's all about being smooth in this kind of motor racing and everything working. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
Bit of a problem here. That is the number 15, the Dick Barber racing machine. Sam Hancock, the driver of that car, and you can see it's down in the gravel in turn 5, and I think we're going to show you what happened to it. Apparently, a little bit of a moment here. The number 42 machine, Karl Wendlinger.
Yeah, Wendlinger tries to snake down the inside again, and a move that maybe wasn't necessary. Door got closed on him. That's a Taz Harvey Grady Willingham car for Dick Barber. Here he is on board. Look, he squeezes left. Watch his left. Door gets closed. Boom! Into him. Over.
I don't know whether it was a case of they just couldn't get slowed down, but I don't see, at least from that angle, and of course onboard videos not always gives you the true perspective, but there's no way that would have been an opening.
There's no need to try and make a move or a kamikaze move like that. You seldom get away with it.
See the full course yellow? We're going to go back and take one more look at that incident here. This is the onboard. This is now, that's turn 4, and they drop down to the S's.
Now look how far behind he is. So number 15 is going very, very slow. So you got to presume maybe he doesn't see you. That's exactly what happened. Never saw him until he heard the knock on the door.
Red mist.
Yeah, well, when he turned in, I mean, there wasn't half a BMW width there, let alone one for a whole car to be able to get through. So,
meantime, the 43 car, the BMW came in, and Dirk Müller got in as Jörg Müller gets out. Also, the 42s coming in later will stay in that car when it does get here.
Well, that, of course, going to snug things up and up front. Now, this should put Johnny Herbert and the champion machine into the lead because it was under yellow, and that stopped. So we'll let that cycle. We've got to get a timing and scoring cycle one time. Then we'll update you on that. Meanwhile, as we continue into yellow, I want to turn our attention once again to Len Hunt. Len, we were talking a little bit about Audi's future in sports car racing. A lot of speculation about VW, so closely tied with Audi, looking at an F1 program. We know the expense of that. How would that impact you guys if that were to happen? And is it going to? Do you have that now?
Well, I don't know. You know, there's lots of things changing and lots of speculation. But for us in sports car racing, we always said right from the start that we wanted to do a broad base of sports car racing. We're absolutely over the moon with our Speed Vision GT Championships, which we talked about. Where you know,
I was amazed at that, Len, because it's obviously those cars that must be really easy to drive. I mean, Uncle Derek got on the podium.
Well, to see Uncle Derek on the podium, we were over the moon. I mean, that really was a wonderful sight, and of course, even more beautiful for dear old Michael Galati there.
Yes,
struggling through, but you know.
Rumour is that he might get himself a test drive in one of the R8s if he wins the championship.
Well, that rumour started with me because I promised it to him. Now I'm going to have to deliver, which is really going to be quite difficult.
Welcome back to Road Atlanta, the Petit Le Mans. After, look at that, 495 miles, less than 5 miles away from halfway. And interestingly enough, just a couple of ticks of the clock away in the 675 class. Andy Pilgrim in 6th leads the GT. GTS, great battle in GTS. And this one goes a bit deeper into the pack. Down, looking here now back to the 20th position. We're going to show you the full field. Stephen Earle, by the way,